You know, I have coaching spots open right now. And it's not just for celebs, execs, or people who you might assume it's meant for. It's meant for you. Book your free consultation with the team at jeffreymarsh.com/coaching. This is your sign. On this episode of Inner Voice, other people at the awards were so awkward, seemed to be upset, seemed to have issues, that I had a drink. And then I had 5 more drinks.
I was the only one drinking. And I was trying to hide it because no one else was drinking. And up until that point, I never really hid my drinking. It just was what it was. And so this idea that it had now kind of evolved into something that I had always been ashamed of it and of my drinking, but the fact that it evolved into something that I was keeping a secret, I didn't like.
And it's the most beautiful and the most painful moment of my life was he just dead in the eye, and he said, "You're never going to not want the things that you want. You're going to find ways to numb them and find ways to talk yourself out of it. But what your soul wants, you will never not want those things."
And then I would, after I'd feel better from my hangover, I'd start drinking again. And then I'd wake up and I'd be like, "God, you're so terrible. You're so dumb. Why did you drink?" The over and over was just that pattern that we were talking about. And so once I proved to myself that I could break that pattern and that I could make a promise to myself that I could keep, then I started to trust myself, which I don't think I ever had done before.
Hello, Zach. It's a great episode today. It's going to be so good. Everyone, this is Inner Voice. My name is Jeffrey Marsh. That's Zach. And we are here. Well, first of all, I studied 25 years plus with a Zen monastery. I've written 2 books that are bestsellers. I am here to take that inner voice, that nasty thing that's in your head that says you're too much and also not enough, and we're going to rip her out. We're going to take her out of the equation, and we're going to replace her with kindness, belonging, love. That's what we do here. But the subject today, Zach, I'm so excited because I think actually it touches everyone. It's either you, it's in your family, but also the process is a very human process.
Yeah, and what we'll talk about today, which is really transformative, is how it allegorically refers to any transition that you make in your life.
Should we tell them what it is? They've seen the title in their podcast player, so they're ahead of us.
Right. So today we're talking about, with SpongeBob hands, sobriety. Not that it's a joke, but sobriety, and how many people today's make a conscious choice to be sober.
Yeah. And of course, I was sober while at the monastery. So I don't know if I ever shared this story with you, but I lived in Philadelphia in the early 2000s.
My homeland. Shout out, go Birds.
Philly, go Birds, best pizza, best pretzels. Pat's and Gino's gonna duke it out. So I lived in Philly in the early 2000s, and while in Philadelphia, I was semi-famous. I was a local theater celebrity. I played flute/Thisbe in Twelfth Night. That's the non-binary character. And I was nominated for a Barrymore. Those are our local, that's the version of the Tonys. So I went to the Barrymore Awards, and I was the LGBTQist there by far. This was in the early 2000s. We called it, I don't even know if I can say, am I allowed to swear on our podcast? Do we have an explicit rating?
I think this is fair game. We're in the 18 plus section.
We called it gender F blank CK. Just that as one word was what we called it, because the movement didn't start using non-binary and these other terms yet. So I went in a silver movie star gown. And so many other people at the awards were so awkward, seemed to be upset, seemed to have issues, that I had a drink. And then I had 5 more drinks. And then, just to sort of alleviate this situation of being the awkward LGBTQ in the room, or feeling that way, I should be specific. And I went back to my apartment, and it was the first and only time that I blanked out, and I woke up later with vomit all over everywhere. And that eventually led me on a path toward Zen Buddhism. And while at the monastery, everyone's completely sober. You don't do any substances or anything that would change your consciousness like that. And the reason I bring up that story is I think there's a special relevance for LGBTQ people to talk about this. And as we said, it is the story of everyone. It is a human story. And as usual, in our episodes, I have some reminders for you, some things to think about. And they are specifically about sobriety, but you could also begin to see them as life's wisdom for a broader subject, for how to live, how to be alive today. And the first one is, you don't have to hit rock bottom to walk away from something that's not serving you. We tend to have, I will talk to our, interviewee, our guest, Dubbs, today about this exact subject, but it doesn't have to be a big dramatic thing. You can make decisions for yourself any day, anytime, and it can sometimes be the smallest thing that catches your attention that gives you enthusiasm to make a different choice for yourself. And because I coach with people, and this comes in the coaching, sobriety and making these different choices for people. And I often tell people, being sober doesn't have to mean boring. If you're making these big choices, sometimes that voice in your head will say, oh, well, your life's going to be so boring. It'll be so different. Sometimes boring is good. Let's face it. That makes you laugh. It's like sometimes we need to be able to rest. That's in part what a meditative practice is about.
Yeah. I've actually never interrupted you during your reminders before.
I love it.
This is the first time.
I love it.
Because I'm 7 months. I'm sober 7 months of alcohol. I'm sober from Miss Mary Jane for 2-3 years now. And that was the first thing people said to me was like, your social life is going to suffer. You're going to, like, what are you going to do in these situations when you're invited out to drink and you're invited out to party? And it's like the expectation is that we're all going to partake in these things to get away from, well, I don't want to generalize that everyone's trying to get away from themselves. I think that's a little rude. But that's the expectation, is that we're all going to participate in this stuff. And that if you don't, you're boring. But what if I'm the closest I've ever been to the truest core of myself? And how is that not awesome instead of boring? I don't know.
How is that not great at a party? That one. Yeah, and I'm so glad you phrased it that way, because that's, I'm assuming, you can tell me if I, should go away because I'm wrong. But that was your experience of it. You were from something, at least in part.
And that's, I was very quick to correct that that's not everyone's case, but for Zach Latino, yes.
And
yes.
That to me brings up a really interesting frame for our conversation today, and then I'll get back to my reminders, that we are talking today about people's experiences. We are talking about the human experience. We're asking people what happened to them, what it felt like, and what their experience was. Nothing replaces getting help for yourself on a personal level. Get your coach, get someone to talk to, folks. So, sometimes we turn to stuff that will numb us, but I want people to explore it doesn't work. When you get right down to it, you can't cut off your beautiful human heart. And you can't cut off your pain. And you can't cut off your human complexity. And quitting something that hurt you is not a loss. It can be a reunion with yourself. Please take good care of yourself. This is not the outro, so we're not going anywhere, but take care of yourself before, during, after our episodes, and for the rest of your life, please.
Can I chime in again?
Of course you may.
No, I just
What
feel
if
so
I said
embarrassed.
no?
Well, then I wouldn't, and I would edit out my request, so I didn't sound like I was turned down. No, I mean, it's the last thing you said. I guess this episode just resonates with me so much personally.
Yeah.
I can get vulnerable on the show. At this point of this episode airing, everybody in my life who matters knows. When I first went to my first gender specialized psychologist, the language I was using was very much like, for the time being, or I'm feeling this way now. How do I navigate not feeling this way? I need help to not feel the things I'm feeling, in regards to gender specifically, right? And he just looked at me straight in the eye, and it's the most beautiful and the most painful moment of my life was he just dead in the eye, and he said, "You're never going to not want the things that you want. You're going to find ways to numb them and find ways to talk yourself out of it. But what your soul wants, you will never not want those things."
Ooh. Yes.
No, you can take over. I think the listeners had to hear that. And I hope somebody who needed to hear it.
No, I don't need to take
Heard
over. That was great. I was just oohing out of pure recognition and enthusiasm.
And it's not a bad time to say that neither me or you are licensed therapists or mental health practitioners, and that you should maybe find your own to find tailored advice for yourself. We are just speaking about our own experience.
Indeed, and our guests' experience, which it's a beautiful conversation, and I can't wait to share it with you all.
I'm doing the intro. I'm doing the intro this week. Jeffrey gave me my intro privileges. Thank you so much. Today's guest is someone who brings humor, heart, and a whole lot of queer joy to everything they touch. Dubbs Weinblatt, they, them, is a trailblazing comedian, producer, and creator known for founding Thank You for Coming Out, a live show and podcast that celebrates the LGBTQ+ experience through the art of long-form improv. A passionate advocate for authenticity, Dubbs uses comedy as a vehicle for connection, storytelling, and radical inclusion. Whether they're on stage, behind the mic, or shaping inclusive programming, Dubbs invites us to imagine what's possible when we lead with empathy and live our truths loudly. Over to you, Jeffrey.
Lovely intro reading, Zach. My compliments. Nobody does it like you. Dubbs, you're one of my favorite people on earth. And so I like... What? You're gonna interrupt me already?
I mean, we're getting off to a good start. I was just gonna say I feel the same way about you. That's all. Just compliment you.
In this day and age, it's really rare. Well, we'll get to that. It's rare to have such a connection with a beautiful person. I'm so grateful. Can you tell me about your decision toward sobriety? Was there, our culture is full of these, made for TV movies, and you got to hit rock bottom and make a decision in a dramatic scene, the 11th hour of your made for TV movie. What was it like for you? When did you know that was the path you were going to choose?
Yeah, I always had been thinking about rock bottom, and There are so many moments that should have, could have been rock bottom for me. And I realized we don't get to actually choose when and what those rock bottoms look like. And
Mm.
I had been, it was May 31st of 2020. So we were right in the beginning of the pandemic. And I was in a birthday Zoom with friends, and I was alone in my bedroom, and I was drinking. And this was not a drinking Zoom. This was just a, love on my friend whose birthday it was Zoom. And I was just getting really drunk alone in my bedroom. And I woke up super hungover. And it was in that moment where I just was like, I don't want to keep doing this. This just doesn't feel good. And I had been drinking heavily for decades, probably at least
Mm.
2 decades. And, again, like I said, like there were so many opportunities that quote unquote look like someone's rock bottom that I didn't, um, read as my own, I guess.
You
And
blew right past, you
I
mean?
blew right past it.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
so, it was such a more tame moment for me, but I think it came at the time I needed it to come. And um, had decided I'm just not going to drink this June. So I was giving myself 30 days to see if I could do it.
Oh, like a Pride Month kind of celebration. Hmm.
Exactly. So I was like, if I cannot drink during a global pandemic during Pride Month, then I can do anything. And I did it. And it was so hard. It was so hard.
Mm.
Um, but I did it. And so I was like, okay, well, if I can do this, I can do anything. And so I just kept not drinking. And it's been 5 years and 10 days.
Yeah, so come, uh, congratulations. We celebrate 5 years in one day. The idea that you're just going to make it through the 30 days and then that opens a window
Hmm.
to make it through more. Zach and I have been toying with this idea that, well, I'll only speak for myself. I had an addiction for the longest time to intense burning self-hatred, which is not the same as, a substance addiction. But I did use some of those same techniques of, well, I'm just going to try to not be so incredibly cruel to myself for 2 weeks. And then we're going to see what happens. And can you tell me about that moment being in the bedroom alone during a pandemic on a Zoom, social, but yet we were also not social. We're also separated at that time in our lives. And what was it about that specific vibe that awakened something different in you?
I think it's because I was the only one drinking. And so, and I was trying to hide it because no one else was drinking. And up until that point, I never really hid my drinking. It just was what it was. And so
Mm.
this idea that it had now kind of evolved into something that I had always been ashamed of it and of my drinking, but the fact that it evolved into something that I was keeping a secret, I didn't like. Um, and this group of friends really aren't heavy drinkers, and so I had been spending time with them leading up to the pandemic, and then um, in the first couple months virtually, and it just something kind of like clicked into place, and I was like, I just need to try. And is it okay if I respond to something that you had said earlier?
Of course you may. Go, loop back around. We love it.
I love looping back around.
Because life does that.
It does. You
Yeah.
had talked about you know, how you had this addiction to talking like very rude, like meanly to yourself, and it's not the
Yeah.
same.
Beyond rude. I mean, just the cruelest stuff you've ever heard in your life.
Had the same conversations with myself,
Yeah.
but I think that they're related in the sense of we get comfortable in patterns,
Mm.
whether they're harmful or not. And so if it's talking cruelly to ourselves, if it's drinking, if it's eating, if it's not eating, if it's exercising, like whatever that pattern might be, staying in relationships that might be abusive, like whatever those patterns are, we get used to them. And so it can feel comforting even if they're dangerous. And so,
Oh,
yeah.
sorry, you finish that thought. Finish it. Finish it.
And so no matter what that challenge might be or the pattern or repetition, it does take a lot of work and self-discipline and really showing up for yourself to break those habits, whatever it might be. And it can be really hard, but also so exhilarating when we do it.
Yes, well, that's what I wanted to talk to you about.
Yes, I knew it.
And especially this correlation. So, you know that I'm a coach. And when I work with clients, when you're in the coach's seat, you get to see humanity and the common threads. You feel very much, or at least I do, feel very less alone in working with people because I'm like, oh, I have that pattern too. I have that pattern too. I've been through that. I've been through that. Right. And you just see this wonderful parade of beautiful human beings and you get to know what fuels people, what drives them, right? And that's the fun and also the spiritual growth of being in the role of somebody who helps other people, which I know you do too. And so the most interesting thing to me, or the thing that I'm on a little, exciting, enthusiastic jag about lately, is when I started to break the self-hate habit, I didn't feel like me anymore. And so we get so comfortable in our patterns that being out of our patterns almost feels like a completely different life, completely different person. Who am I? Oh, I'm the person who's failing. I'm the person who deserves this. I'm the person who on and on and on and on. And we don't realize just changing some of our circumstances could have the net effect of sending us into a spiral of identity. Did you experience some of that?
I don't know why I'm thinking so hard. Yes.
Yeah. I was like, I can't wait for this complicated answer that you're about to give me. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, I had internally and externally, I drew a line of like, don't ever be drunk at work. Like that was
Mm.
my line. And, but any other moment was game. And so that meant social gatherings, weddings, Thursday night, like anything. And so when I stopped drinking, I had to relearn how to be a human being in all of those situations sober. And so it really
Mm.
did, push me into this. Um, it was an opportunity to figure out, okay, I can be funny without alcohol. I can be vulnerable without alcohol. I can talk to other people without alcohol. I might be kind of awkward, but turns out I think I just maybe a little bit of an awkward person and then just like learning to embrace that. But yeah, I definitely was like, who am I without this? And how do I Leanne Rhyme style, how do I live? Right? Like how do I do
Mm-hmm.
this? But I figured it out.
That was a reference to the song.
Yes.
I was just like, why is that song in my head now? It's because you evoked it. Yes, that is essential. And I want to hear about how your addiction was affecting other people. Because you said you were trying to hide it on that Zoom. And so that's sort of like making it a private thing that you're bearing. But I imagine you started to notice that this was having effects, knock-on effects on other people that you care about. Can you say a little bit about that?
Yeah. Um, Something about me when I would drink is that my poor body was trying to tell me every single time I drank, like, please stop doing this. I would become like so deathly hungover every time where I would have to like cancel plans. Or, I'd just like be like throwing up all day. It was just like miserable for everybody. There was one time where a family member confronted me about my drinking and I shut it down immediately. I would say like no one ever confronted me besides that one time about
Mm,
my drinking. And so there was a part of me, well, I was, I guess, I don't want to say that I was hiding it, but I was a functional alcoholic. And so it was like I was able to like move through situations where people didn't maybe fully understand just how drunk I was. Um, and so I mean, hindsight is, people were really patient with me and um it was kind of like, oh, that's just Dubs. Like they're just hungover, or they're just gonna go like curl in a ball and miss this party that we're having because they're so like it just like became my personality. It became who I was like I'm the hungover or drunk person. And so I'm sure if we were to ask people close to me now how my drinking affected them, I would learn a lot. I haven't
mm,
asked anybody. Um, and I don't I haven't ever talked about this out loud, but I never went through like AA or any kind of like program where you are where part of it is like confronting and apologizing and taking accountability, and I've done that a little bit, but it's mostly I haven't, and I think I'm really afraid of knowing how my alcohol impacted other people, and so I haven't asked anyone.
yeah, afraid to come to terms with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
And so there was I mean, as you're speaking, there's been something that's on my mind. The longer view. Because you talked about, I'm going to make it through June. I'm going to make it through those first 30 days. And then that flowered into years of working through this. So can you talk about that, for lack of a better word, transition from I'm just going to survive this 30 days to living for years and taking care of yourself?
Yeah, actually, if that's like the best term that you could have used, transition,
I like
because
it.
I mean, I do too. And I actually, after the clarity of not drinking in July of 2020, I
Mm,
started testosterone.
mm,
So there was this opening because I hadn't been numbing or escaping through alcohol. There was a lot of, which I think a lot of us did during the pandemic, of like sitting in quiet, sitting with ourselves, discovering new things, unearthing things that we knew were to be true always, but had been afraid of, which was me,
yes.
and starting testosterone, even though I was at this point, still very out and vocal about being trans, and still then was never wearing a shirt after top surgery, and even then I was still afraid of testosterone, and what that would mean to me and my body and my journey, and afraid of it because I knew it was exactly what I needed.
Ooh,
Um,
say that again. Say that again.
I was afraid of it because I knew it
That's
was exactly what I
exactly what I
needed.
needed.
Yeah. And
Mm,
so I started testosterone, and so there were these moments of okay, I'm showing up for myself by not drinking. And now I'm showing up for myself to have this gender affirming, life-saving healthcare. This like, this next piece. And I started to rewrite the narrative for myself of I actually can show up for myself. I can make a promise and keep it. Because, the narrative that, or, the refrain really, every morning after I'd been drinking, I would wake up and say, I don't want to do this again. I feel terrible. It's not good. And then I would, after I'd feel better from my hangover, I'd start drinking again. And then I'd wake up and I'd be like, God, you're so
mm,
terrible. You're so dumb. Why did you drink? The over and over was just that pattern that we were talking about. And so once I proved to myself that I could break that pattern and that I could make a promise to myself that I could keep, then I started to trust myself, which I don't think I ever had done before. And I didn't know what that felt like. And so once I did it, I was like, wow, this feels really good. This feels amazing. And so that kind of kind of bled into other decisions that I would make and other ways that I would show up for myself, and trust that I could listen to myself and know like, this actually doesn't feel good. So I started setting boundaries because I realized like I could show up for myself in a way that I didn't know how to before. And so um, I just feel like it's a gift that keeps a gift I keep giving myself is listening to myself, showing up for myself, and knowing that I can trust myself.
And you learn over time. It's just like an outside relationship. You learn over time that that person's trustworthy. And in this case, that person is you.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Truly beautiful.
Thank you.
I'm sensing a little emotion. Do you want to say a little bit about that part there, Dubbs?
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of work on myself in the last, well, 5 years since stopping drinking, but much, much more than that. Um, and I like to think that I'm the kind of person who like, and I do. I'm not even, I haven't completed my thought yet. I want to
Take
be
your
the
time.
person to take accountability for things that I've done. That's really important to me. Um, to offer repair for things that any harm that I've caused, things like that. And this might be just like the one thing that I'm kind of afraid of. Because not because I don't want to take accountability, not because I don't want to repair, but because
Mhm.
I'm afraid to know how much I might have hurt people. And like that's what really gets me.
Well, if it's any help, I'm a perfect angel on earth, and I have hurt people. Even I, even I have acted out of whatever the heck we act out of all the time as human beings. And I'm joking, but it's not to make light of the situation. It's to let you know that perhaps there's an adventure. Sounds like for you. And may we all be in a spot where we have such integrity, such kindness in our hearts. And it would make perfect sense to me that someone would take years to internally repair before it was time to do any sort of, other person repair.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, it's almost beautiful because you don't want to start that, other person work until you have you first. You have your own back first. And I happen to know you personally. I'm lucky enough. And I know that you've done so much of that work already. Can I? It's my show. I'm gonna. Thank you for being vulnerable, and thank you for talking to us today. And thank you for sharing it all as you do all the time.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Take good care. Thank you, Dubbs. Thank you. What a beautiful conversation. I just have a smile on my face. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice. Really good. I think you have some trivia for us. Do you not?
Do I? Am I the trivia master?
Do you?
I do.
Mixtress of trivia? Yes. What do you got?
I do. Let me give me a second. It was pulled up and then I had to delete it for something else. We're gonna keep all this unless it ruins the
in front of the window in front of the window.
Right. Unless it ruins the flow. I'm keeping all of this because we're all human, right?
It's good with me.
Okay, well,
I didn't win the Barrymore, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for being honest.
Went to a cis person. You know how it goes.
Oh, Jeffrey, do I ever?
We're joking, people. We're joking. Everyone.
Okay. According to, this is my trivia question. Sorry to just go right into it. According to a 2023 Gallup survey,
Mm-hmm.
what percentage of U.S. adults say they don't drink alcohol at all? According to a 2023 survey, U.S. adults who don't drink at all anymore.
You know, it's not a subject I've studied. So going in completely blind, I would guess the number has gone up as the years have gone by. Like I would think, you know, in the 40s, they were drinking quite a lot. And, you know, it was a different cultural time, and even into the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, etc. And I would think today the number is higher than others. But to give an answer, percentage who don't drink at all, who say they don't drink at all, 50. Ooh, I went there. I just went high. I just went bold. Yeah, I'm sticking with it. Great. We'll see. And in the meantime, here's an advertisement to one of my favorite podcasts. You say to keep the lights on, to keep the garage band running. Here's an ad of something we love. Take care of yourself during the ad break. And when we come back, we'll talk about, I have some more reminders for you. So don't go anywhere. Okay, it's time. You know, all the segments are like my children. You don't have a favorite. You don't do that to your children. But this segment is my favorite. Community question. What do we got, Zach? This is, oh, by the way, you want to tell them about the community?
Oh my God! Do I want to tell them about the community? Smooth operator, but that's it because we don't want to get copywritten. The Jeffrey Marsh Safe Space Community can be found online. It's in the top when you go to the website jeffreymarsh.com. In the top things of all of our offerings, all our seasonal offerings that get mixed up and switched seasonally, and whenever Jeffrey has another brilliant idea. But you just click join the community, and it'll all pop up. We have a super private, super watched, hawked over Discord, where the conversations have been getting really, really beautiful. It's been active every day. And the people in there are so amazingly special. So you can join just at the click of a button, and then you'll get a prompt. You know, once all of your information goes through, you'll get a prompt to join the Discord and to join Jeffrey's blog. And their blog posts come out once a week on whatever else we're tackling today, or tomorrow, or next week. Sometimes the subjects align with the podcast coming up, so it's also a fun sort of way to get to guess with your friends, oh, what's the next podcast episode about? As well as you get early access to podcast episodes and other short form, long form, exclusive projects Jeffrey's doing in the Discord group itself. So if you're interested, join Jeffrey's Safe Space online today at jeffreymarsh.com.
I love that. You're so good at that. But this question comes out of that Discord.
Right. Right. So the community questions all come from our lovely Discord people. And this one comes from Clear and Kind 34. So sometimes people remain anonymous and sometimes people tell us. So this is Clear and Kind 34. Asks Jeffrey, hey Jeffrey, I've started pulling back from drinking in social spaces, and now I feel kind of invisible. Like I'm on the outside of things. Is that just part of the process, or am I doing something wrong?
Oh, you're not doing something wrong. Let's start there. This reminds me of, you know, when I took a vow studying early days at the monastery we specifically have a vow. It's one of the precepts is what it's called. But we have a vow not to engage with substances that would change our perception, right? And alcohol is one of them. And so I was not drinking, and I would go into these situations, and I always found it so sad that almost everyone would go immediately to, because I choose not to drink, I was judging them for drinking. And it's like, yeah, invisible. I can definitely relate to that. And people thought I was like high and mighty, like I don't drink because I'm better than you. And it was like, it's not at all, It's just something really interesting about human nature and human psychology there. No, you're not doing something wrong, and here's your way out. Name it. Communicate. What I found helpful for me, so people would know I was not judging them, is telling them what I was up to, why I was doing it, that I don't judge them, that I love them, and I'm happy to talk more about it if you have questions for me. Opening the door to further communication will break down some of those barriers and help everyone in the room be seen, including yourself. Really important question, though, because it's a decision that people tend to wrap up in what other people think of us.
No, for sure. I was even in this situation where I guess it's exactly what you said, where somebody was like, "Oh, should I not drink around you? Should I not drink around?" And I was like, "Oh, I really actually respect the fact that maybe you thought I had a trigger or something. But what I'm doing for me does not affect the gander,
Goosey Lucy. Yeah, it's really important to normalize grief in making choices for yourself. The idea of grieving what you used to have, in this case, a social situation, but the idea that it's okay to give yourself space to really be in grief about it. Yeah. And there is a path for you to rebuild connection and clarity there by going a little bit, the extra step of communicating for yourself. It is time for advertisements, or if you went to the new school of acting, advertisements. Here's our space, and when we get back, don't go anywhere. It's time for the trivia answer. We're going to see how correct I was. Very.
Thank you for coming out. I'm Dubbs Weinblatt, and I am thrilled to invite you into our 7th season of the Thank You for Coming Out podcast. In every episode, we create space for powerful, heartfelt, vulnerable, and joyful stories of coming out and coming into oneself. So join us, learn with us, celebrate with us, and most importantly, thank you for coming out. Anywhere podcasts are available.
Welcome back, everybody. And it's time for the trivia answer.
My outline says Zach reveals.
I saw that in the outline.
Did you see how self-aggrandizing I am?
You're going to reveal.
Yeah. According to Gallup.
Sorry.
About now I can't get myself out of it. About 41% is what's happening. Is what's coming out of my mouth right now.
What's the matter, you 41%?
According to Gallup, about 41% of U.S. adults reported they don't drink anymore. That's amazing.
50. I said 50. I was close. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, 41%.
Still, that seems high to me, 41. I mean, a lot of people. Is that why you were reacting that way?
I think it's huge. I think it's a big deal. Yeah.
And I'll tell you what it speaks to. I mean, I almost said 4 of my grandparents had issues with drinking, but that would make it all of them, wouldn't it? I was trying to do the math in my head there. It depends on what your family is made up of, but that's all the grandparents I had. And, I think people witnessed a lot of what can happen. And 41%, that is a really interesting number of people who've made that choice. And we've also been talking throughout the episode today about how this is, in a sense, metaphorical. If you assume that this is not quote unquote, this episode is not quote unquote relevant to you, that's a wrong assumption, because it's you, it's your family, or this is a metaphor for, being addicted to things like that we don't normally think of as addiction. Hatred, a relationship, self-hate, stuff like that. The rich tapestry of human experiences are very fun to explore. And I'd like to take a moment to remind you of, Jeffrey's Reminders. It's a segment. It's a thing we do here. And then I have a special treat. This is a special treat, and then I have a second special treat. You're not missing out when you make decisions for yourself. You literally are tuning in to the present moment and to yourself. And the version of you who needs less to feel whole is an evolution and not a limitation. So, in other words, we can get into the habit of doing the most, trying the most, getting the most, being the most productive. You know the drill. Most. And when you need less and you feel content, that's magic. You're really onto something. And I want you to remember specifically about sobriety. Sobriety isn't a punishment. It's a promise you make to yourself. And to say a little bit, just a teensy-weensy bit about the monastery, we promised that so that you could sit in meditation and have clarity, right? We promised we wouldn't do any substance on earth. Actually, caffeine was a big revolution that we all worked with spiritually at the monastery. But we wouldn't do anything that would change a thing because we wanted to have the distillation of the present moment. So sometimes you make choices for yourself that bring you back to yourself. And that can be challenging, but stick with it. And maybe this today is the clearest you've ever been. Trust this present moment. Trust what you know and trust what you're seeing right now. You deserve it. So, everybody, treat number 2. Close your eyes. If you're in a place where you can't, it's not possible for you to close your eyes, keep your eyes open. Just bring your attention inward and begin to follow the breath. Watch the ebb and the flow of the inhales and the exhales. We so rarely bring our attention to ourselves. For some people, it never happens. I had somebody I was coaching with say, I didn't truly relax until I did a meditation with you. Take this as your chance. Let go of all of it. Take up space. Be present in the room you're in. And take 3 huge breaths. Get greedy. Take in all the air you can. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Gosh darn it. Take in more breath, more breath, more breath. You deserve the world full of breath. And on that 3rd exhale, begin to come back to this room, this place where you are, transitioning into your present moment and the rest of your life. Take great care of yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to others. Lower your standards for how you should be. And have a lovely day. This has been Inner Voice with Jeffrey Marsh. Today's episode was produced by Zach Latino. If you're ready to go deeper, transform your life, and experience personalized support, my one-on-one coaching sessions can be applied for at jeffreymarsh.com. Know someone perfect for Inner Voice? Send them our way. Have them visit jeffreymarsh.com to sign up for our exclusive online community, and we'll reach out if their inquiry aligns with an upcoming episode. Remember, you are worthy exactly as you are. See you next time.